Now,
on to the main program.
we are taking it back to basics for today's episode of Beyond Binary Thinking. The purpose of this podcast is to make really simple things overly complicated. Is that about right?
Basically, yeah.
That's what we do.
More or less it.
Things that society thinks they have a hold of, we're like, whoa, no, it's way more complex than that.
I'm recording.
Can you hear me now? Yes, it does.
Excuse me, my crayon is a monkey. I find the conversation
Taking some interest in learning a bit more about technology, philosophy, and I like to...
I'm an educator.
Absolutely.
We're going to stay anonymous.
That's a cop-out.
The binary's gone. I thought jingle was like Dutch for cheers.
Do that as the intro.
All right, guys, so I've been inviting celebrities to do my charity Dungeons and Dragons game. I know that's a nerdy sentence all wrapped in one. Using the joy of Cameo, I've been getting them on it. One celebrity instantly said yes. He was like, yeah, let's do it. I won't charge anything. Talk to my agent, make it happen. The next celebrity, who is Tia Carrera from Wayne's World.
See our video. What did you get her to say?
If I'm honest, I was hoping she wouldn't say anything. I was hoping she'd just do my charity thing and refund the money. I was kind of trying to hack Cameo.
So she took the charity's money.
Well, that's not fair. I'm the one dicking around with her time. She took my money. Let's not.
This is the moral dilemma, right? This is the catch-22 that's behind this all, right? The moment you record the video, you're taking the charity's money. You're actually a bit of an asshole.
I'm not putting that on Tia.
Okay.
I was intentionally playing that gambit.
Sorry, Tia. I called you an asshole. I love you.
I was trying to socially hack the lovely Tia Carrera.
I used to have a crush on her when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
I can't remember watching Wayne's World, if I'm honest. It's terrible, isn't it? But I have a memory of it.
So this is the wonderful Tia Carrera. She's not an asshole. I'm an asshole. She's like a lot of actresses in the pandemic, doing cameos to make a bit of money. And I've hacked that system in order to get people's attention, because no celebrity pays attention when you tweet them these days, but they have to read the message to record the video, right?
Yeah.
And so I've got to the front of their DMs by
It's a good system.
pretending to offer them money for a job when in fact I'm just being like, hi, can you play D&D with me in a month's time for charity? It's cheeky. It's cheeky.
It's a smart gambit.
Let's see.
It's worked so far. Brian Posen, do you know him?
Master of none.
And he has a really big...
It rings a bell,
Yeah. And he has a really big D&D podcast as well. Very funny comedian. Nice. He did it and he didn't charge me any money. He said, no, I don't want to take any money from a charity.
What a legend.
And I want to play for your D&D charity. I'm like, brilliant. This is good. I go and fire out some more offers to some more celebrities. Unfortunately, I got sent a receipt and a recording. So let's see what this recording is. And it might be a video of Tia Carrera telling me to fuck off and stop wasting her time and charging me £100 for the privilege. So we'll see.
Let's see.
There is going to be a big charity event, online live streaming, to make gaming more accessible for the blind. You'll be invited to play on October 1st or 2nd to play Dungeons and Dragons live stream, and it will help raise a lot of money for two great charities, Able Gamers and Special Effects. So, watch this space October 1st or 2nd, Dungeons and Dragons for Able Gamers and Special Effects. Party on, guys.
Thank you, Tia. Wonderful.
That's smart.
Party on! That's cool.
That's smart.
We'll call that a win.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Nice. So what about the event then? Tell us a bit about the event.
Yeah, so I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons with a blind fella, and it's just been obvious to
Blind
me.
Brav, no?
Yeah, exactly. I think he has a surname, but we'll call him
That's
Blind
his
Brav.
alias in Discord. I'm not just calling him that.
My work with the disabled community has taught me that they love it when you refer to them like that.
It was his alias. Come on.
It is.
You're making me look like
I'm
a
trolling.
meanie.
I really thought if we could help out some other people, and so a few of the platforms I use really just need a few tweaks to be more accessible. So I started talking to a few blind activists in this space, and they're all clear on quick wins, which companies are dragging their feet, which companies have done massive work. Before I knew it, there was like 12 of us on a call, and I said, well, this is all the team we need to have a big event and try and raise some money for charity, and then applaud some businesses that have made the effort to make things more accessible. Because especially in the last year, the ability to be able to do things on your computer has made the social life for disabled people a lot better than it was before, to be honest.
That sounds good. And so can anyone play in that event?
That's the point. I want it to be everyone game. And I know like the words charity and disabled aren't the best marketing things to promote an event, but really we're just trying to have a good time and have fun and show that it is really easy to accommodate people with different abilities and disabilities. So it's going to be a fun Dungeons and Dragons game. We're going to have some celebrities involved, and we're also going to be playing, I think, Mortal Kombat, because the current world champion is a blind player, which is awesome.
Whoa.
Yes. So apparently your reaction to sound is quicker than your reaction to sight. And so he's memorized all the sounds that each of the characters make when they're doing different types of attacks, and he can counter quicker than his sighted opponent.
That's sick. That's so cool.
Counting the frames without being actually able to see the frames. That's insane. Yeah.
So he's going to wipe the floor with them. Hopefully, we're going to have a bit of a tournament and watch a sighted guy lose to the blind community. Wow. It's going to be fun.
That should be cool. Nice.
That'll be a ladder tournament, so everyone's free to join that. Or if you play like tabletop roleplay games, we'll play that bit Dungeons and Dragons, but some other game developers make other formats as well. So yeah, anyone who fancies it, as Tia said, 1st or 2nd of October, you're welcome to join us. So today I want to talk about moral dilemmas. Finn, do you want to tee us up?
Yeah, so I think, have you guys all like picked a moral dilemma to kind of bring with you onto the episode?
A few.
Yeah. 3. There's a classic one.
I've got one so disgusting we'll probably have to move on from it pretty quickly. Yeah.
Nice. That sounds good. I'm intrigued. I love moral dilemmas, because it's one of these things, isn't it, where it sort of seems to have an obvious answer, like you mentioned, Chris. Everyone kind of has an instinctive answer, but when you break it down, maybe it's not so clear cut as you initially thought it was. Yeah, a great example of that is the trolley problem, right? Which maybe we can start by talking about that one. So if you're watching the episode, you can see in Chris's background there's like loads of tracks and trains and levers and people tied to tracks. So this was basically a moral dilemma invented by Philippa Foot, I think in I can't remember when, but maybe it was 60s or 70s. And she basically posited that imagine there's a train running down a hill on a tracks, and there's 5 people for some reason tied up to the tracks, and you're standing next to the tracks at a fork. And if you pull the lever, it will divert the train away from the 5 people tied to the tracks to an adjacent track that only has one person tied down. So the idea is, what do? Do you pull the lever or not? So what would you guys do in the classic trolley problem? Moraine, what would you do? Would you pull the lever?
I never liked the idea of this trolley problem. So maybe I should go last, and I'll bring the.
Moraine would diver and be uncertain and
You've dilly-dallied and the train has killed 5 people. So no, it's all right. There are some problems with it.
So you only have like a split second.
Typically, yeah.
You just you've got to choose.
This is interesting though, because the experiment gets run, loads of different variations on the question.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's quite intriguing when it changes and why, and the subtle differences that I think tell us a lot about human morality. And I'm going to come up with a theory that a lot of our morality is evolved, instinctual.
Right.
I'm just talking around the houses to avoid the fact that I would pull the damn lever. Yeah,
you would pull the lever from the get-go, yeah. But I think most people would, right?
Yeah.
I've seen videos where people put their hand up.
Apparently, statistically, the majority would.
Yeah.
Or they say they would.
Yeah.
Now, that's a different thing, as I know from study of psychology.
It's not the same as...
Saying you will in a questionnaire, it's not the same as pulling that damn lever. And there's plenty of time, there's plenty of opportunities people have to do the hard but morally better choice, and they don't.
That's true. So the majority of people generally would tend to go, well, yeah, I'd probably, save the 5. And poor guy, they're all poor people for being tied down to the tracks, right? And then there's a second variation, right? So instead of the lever now, we've got a bridge over the tracks. Still, the train is going to hit the 5, and there's a bridge, and then there's a fat man at the top. And you can save, he's just fat enough to stop the trolley. So you can push him over the edge. And then people go, ooh, don't know about that. Pushing someone off the edge.
Yeah, a lot less people would do that, right?
A lot less people put their hand up and say, yeah, I'd push him.
So I find it fascinating that people not only say most of them would pull the lever and wouldn't push the fat man. But when you ask them why, although they feel very strongly about both of those cases that what their decision is the right thing to do, and then you go, cool, why? And most people not educated in this problem struggle to articulate. This is why I say, like, I think there's just a vibe of what the right thing to do is. And philosophers have gone into details about what the difference between those two scenarios are. The main one is the person on the tracks has chosen to be on the tracks, right? They are assuming that risk. Pushing someone off a bridge is a step removed, right? They were not in harm's way.
Yeah, just psychologically, it seems like they're in harm's way. Yeah, I see. Even though none of them have chosen to be there, though.
And there's also a removal of the lever, which is you pull a handle which touches a thing, which moves a thing into another direction, versus it definitely feels more like murder when you push the man.
Yeah. But then what about the difference between pushing a man off of train tracks to kill him or pulling a trigger of a gun? I mean, that still has that same, like, it's one step removed.
Or pushing the button, right? There's this famous story of this Russian guy who should have pushed the button for nuclear war and didn't. And he had all the approvals, and he still himself made the decision not to do it because he can, this is just pushing a button, but he knew what the moral consequences would be of pushing that button. Of course, he was trained for that, but
in the end, it was a false positive, wasn't it?
It was, and he didn't do it, and he
averted a nuclear holocaust.
He saved the world. But his instructions, according to all his training, said push the button. And that's quite far removed. You're not even seeing it's purely mental thing that's going on here. Right. And I think what Chris is saying is completely right. If there's two tracks with people on there, they're in danger. Both of the tracks are in danger. Whether the switch is one side or the other way, it doesn't really matter because, you have a chance to pull the switch and it decides which real way it's going to be. Of course, there's also going to be the people that's just going to freeze and then 5 people are going to be run over because they don't do anything.
And there's people who are going to refuse as well, right?
Right, because many people freeze, right? If an accident happens, it's usually one person that decides to rush and then the rest of the people come once one person taking the leap. But before that, first person does that, there's a lot of people that hesitate.
Actually, fascinatingly enough, so what they say actually, it's the second person that's key. In bystander incidents where you need a lot of people involved, right? Like the first, if just one person rushes, that can be just a madman. Right? It's the second person. True. Once the second person goes, you see the crowd.
There's a video of the guy dancing on the hill. I've got to be unstoppable. And everyone's kind of laughing at this crazy guy.
And then the second guy joins him.
The second guy comes and they're like, maybe there's something to this. And then the next one. And before you know it, the whole hill of people are just going mad.
And I was reminded of that. I saw a video last week of a fairground ride. And one of these dodgy traveling fairgrounds that you probably shouldn't use. The sort of thing that inspires the trolley problem because you watch 5 or 1 people die depending on how the ride goes. And it started shaking. It was one of these, it was like spinning them around and around vertically, right? And it starts shaking on the wrong axis, like front to back.
Right. And the people
and you imagine there's like 20 people in this ride, and then this one person just has the fucking balls to jump up on the thing and start leaning back to stop it from tipping over.
With a little bit of butter weight, right? Yeah.
Knowing that his weight is never going to do it, but just hoping that will be enough that other people are stupid enough to join in. And then once 20 people are on it, everyone's safe and everyone gets off the ride safely. But for that one person, that was a suicidal move. Like he trusted in humanity enough that he was like...
That's crazy, isn't it?
There is something to that. The people who... I mean, even jumping in a river to save someone is a moral dilemma. You are technically risking a second life, right? To save a first, but a surprisingly large number of people will do it.
Your own,
and
usually in that equation, your own life becomes unimportant, right? Because
one would hope
that's what you usually see. No, well, I mean, if you hear these stories, people are not thinking of their own lives at all. You're completely focused on saving the other, even if could be not human, could be an animal. People sacrifice or risk their own lives to save an animal.
Yeah. People jump into freezing rivers for a random dog or a deer. You see it all the time.
So I've read an interesting dilemma where it was if there's 2 children in a tide in the sea, and the tide the water current is so strong you can only really save one of the children, and one of them is your niece. She's a bad swimmer, and one of them is your daughter. And she's a good swimmer, but she's your daughter. You have to save one. You might not make it back in time to save the second. Who would you save, right?
The statistics of it are fascinating, and this is why I believe there is an evolutionary basis to a lot of our morality that's worth discussing. People are a lot more likely to be altruistic to someone they're genetically related to. Now, obviously not all altruism is, mate, I don't know if you have kids, but like... I would be so sorry for my poor sister to have to lose their child. But I am not leaving my child in that scenario. You just wouldn't.
Well, there's a pure genetical logic in there, right? Like any animal in the animal kingdom would defend their own children.
And when you look at the rates of help and how much money you give, it's purely mathematical. Like you're a quarter related.
Are you saying that you'd both choose your daughter? But she can swim well. So just based on that information, I'd probably go
but it's
for
a current in the sea, right? Like adults
and
drown.
It's head and heart as well. Like logically, you can decide this in a room, right? Tick the correct box in an experiment, especially when you think that the experimenter is going to judge you, and that's often why people answer improperly on these questionnaires. They answer what they think is the right answer.
Well, there's no proper here. There's no proper at all.
It's not clear cut. For me, it's the needs for sure, because it's like you save the person who's least able to save themselves.
Just trust me, Finn. If you had a kid,
I don't have kids. I can never answer this question, really.
Even if you have a kid, maybe the instinctive choice is also to go for the non-selfish option, right? Like you're thinking in very selfish way.
Example of a kid, I'm pretty sure instinct. As I say, I've spent my whole life going for altruism. We are a group species. I'll do as much as I can for my fellow man. I'm pretty sure my instinct would override that one.
What about the third option? Because often these options are reduced to binary options, and there's usually many more alternatives in real life. There's usually many options, more than two, right? So I think in this case, often you would probably try to say both and maybe drown. Yeah.
Yes, and die doing it. Yeah. That's the tragedy of it, is that often people do struggle so hard to logically go, I'm not strong enough, this isn't working. They will not give up. They will not let go of a child in that scenario, that yes, they will often drown themselves.
Yeah, that happened in Cordoba. There was a famous case of it where 3 lads were swimming, and the currents in the river there are really strong. And one of them was really struggling, and his mate went to save him. And he's one who saved. His friend was then eventually the one who got swept away and unfortunately died, so he was willing to save his mate and he gave his life, unfortunately. I don't think he wanted to, obviously, but, that's how it ended up going down.
I understand then the hesitancy Meringue expresses. It is a complex issue, right? But Finn, what would you do in the trolley problem?
I wouldn't pull the lever.
Why not? Because it's not your choice to make.
Why not? Because for a few reasons. There's quite a few criticisms of the trolley problem, because you said, Moraine, quite rightly, that it's kind of a very binary choice. Fundamentally, you're not responsible for that situation, right? But here's one argument, is when you act, you then take on some more responsibility in that scenario.
Well, fundamentally, you're in the position in time, in the exact locality where you can make a change, right?
You have agency, yeah.
Fundamental difference.
Yeah, failing to act is a change and a choice, yeah.
No, but it's interesting because really the question is, how much of a moral obligation do you have in this scenario? Because because this leads on to my moral dilemma that I've prepared later.
No, let's discuss it. But I don't think you don't pull the lever because you're like, not my problem, no responsibility. I don't think that's the rationalization you're giving.
Yeah, this seems a little bit philosophical.
Things not on my give a shit list today. Oh, this.
5 people tried to attract. Okay,
I hope we never have to encounter the true reality of this issue.
My dad had, I think, the best answer, although it's not one of the two. He just said, I'd sacrifice myself. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. It's not an option because the trolley would carry on, I guess. They've ruled that out, but...
Well, maybe you'd derail it.
As a fat man, I am now able to stop this train.
No, it's kind of murder, isn't it? I mean... I see it as murder.
But it's murder either way.
No, it's not you. It's not you committing murder. And I think...
Yeah, it is. You had the agency and the chance to...
No, because here's the thing. I don't think you have a moral obligation to save the 5 people.
No, even without the moral obligation. So here's the thing. I agree with you. There's no moral obligation anywhere, right? That I completely agree with you. I feel that in the world, you can have impact or not, and it doesn't really matter. But I think
it could be a weak moral obligation.
You still are in the position where you have this agency possibility. So without the moral obligation, it is still, you have the possibility to steer one track or the other, choose the outcome.
Yeah.
It might like in a selfish way, it might be much easier to live with the fact that only one person died rather than 5. You're going to feel responsible for the 5 people dying.
As a result of your choices.
I'm going to feel very responsible. Whereas if I go, well, I'm refused to engage in this immoral situation.
Wash your hands of it.
Yeah, because the responsibility is the person who set this bloody dilemma up. Philippa Foot, it's her responsibility.
In the words of Shaggy, it wasn't me.
Here's the rub though, right? Where I wouldn't pull the lever on the first one, I would consider pushing a fat man on the bridge.
Oh, you just don't like fat people.
No. No, I wouldn't actually. I couldn't do it. I would consider it in theory, but I wouldn't be able to do it.
So let me rephrase the experiment and see if that changes the parameters for you. Okay. There is a person holding a gun to a person's head.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunity to be a hero and lunge at the gunman. You know that if you do nothing, he's going to start executing people one by one, but he'll spare you. So you have the option of lunging at the gunman, but you're fairly confident that there's no way you're going to lunge at him and stop that one person from dying. So by lunging at him wildly, one person will die because of your actions. You will save 4 lives, but you will definitely have killed that first person. Or do you wait and watch him execute all 5 people?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because it seems different to the first one, doesn't it?
Right, but it's not. And I would say that the reason you like the second one is because you're doing a heroic deed, whereas touching a trolley handle,
no,
you don't feel good about that. You feel involved.
Pushing a fat man off a bridge, though, whoa, you get a medal for
that. Feel like an action hero. I got a workout today.
No, it does feel different. And there's another one which feels, it's like a counterexample to your different theory, right? Which is the doctor and the patients. It's like there are 5 patients who need organs, various organs.
Oh, yeah.
But hold that. Can you walk them in, strip them of organs and save 5 lives? Now, before we get into the utilitarian argument, which I think is an interesting one, I want to get back to the difference between the two. And the reason why I think you're a coward for not pulling the lever is because it's about how good you feel and how guilty you feel. And so you're choosing an option, not because you've justified it rationally or morally, maybe on a philosophical level, but I worry that you've made a rationalization, but it's let more people die. And if I rephrase the thing so that you can be an action hero in the movie.
I don't think I could do it, though. I don't think I could do it.
Right. The bar is much higher, though.
You wouldn't dive on a gunman? Because funnily enough, a lot of people would. You know, we've run this experiment. Terrorist attacks in London.
The Glasgow one where they just punched the crap out of him.
Well, that was different because he just punched a man on fire to death.
No more terrorist attacks in Glasgow. You know what I mean?
Never since. London, there's been a few cases where a person has had a machete.
Yeah, there was a Spanish guy who tried to attack one with a skateboard.
And, a few people have put their lives at risk with a skateboard. The Millwall fans who they're famously threw chairs and bottles, like football hooligan, the first line of defense. That is my concern, that you won't touch the trolley because it doesn't feel good. You could save 4 lives.
But you're framing it as save 4 lives. Do you know what I mean? Rather than framing it as you're responsible for killing that person.
But do you see how that in the gun scenario,
I see how it feels different. It definitely feels different. But yeah, I don't know if I could do it. It's fundamentally because I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in killing other people, basically. If I can avoid it.
I think you're just rationalizing doing nothing, even though you know it's the wrong decision.
I don't think it's wrong, though. That's the thing. I don't think it's wrong.
No, I agree. There's nothing wrong. At least not in both situations.
I don't think it's as clear cut. No, I don't think you can say saving the 5 is without doubt the right answer.
No, I'm making it binary. I'm right, you're wrong. There's no dilemma here. Pull the fucking trolley.
Let's go to the other extreme where there's like the counter argument to your gunman thing, which does feel different to me, right? There's another one where there's 5 patients who need organs. There's a doctor. The doctor can kill 1 patient, harvest their organs, and save 5. And in that situation, people almost unanimously would say you can't kill the patient who's healthy, right? Because that's just, you can't go around doing that. It's ridiculous. You can't just go around murdering people to save other people, which is it's the same situation, isn't it? But it feels very different.
It's not, because you've used the word healthy. If you knew the patient was going to die in a year, that
I don't think it does. Right? I don't think people are going to change their opinion and say, yeah, kill that person. They're basically dead anyway. That maybe more people would. But I still don't think people would be that up for it. I think you can't just take away people's life. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of how much is left.
Just to save others.
Because I think ultimately we can't know, can we? But
there's a lot of difference here between the trolley problem and this problem, because we're talking about 5-6 people that might not guarantee to be dying right at that moment.
But if you could say they're guaranteed to die unless you kill the guy.
Chose to work on a railway line, they assume some risk.
There's never a guarantee to die, and people believe in miracles. There's a much difference between they're going to die within the next couple seconds on the rail tracks. You're absolutely sure there will.
Yeah.
Unless an alien ship comes crashing in and throwing a trolley off of the tracks, which is very, 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 very slim chance that will ever happen.
That some people's answers, they would spend the time praying to God as they watch the 5 people splatter in front of them.
Well, some people might do that actually, but
or some,
and then wash their hands clean. I did the right thing. I prayed to God. Okay, cool.
We're also culturally more used to the fact people can die from accidents, and harvesting organs, like growing humans to harvest organs, is not really a thing in our society.
Do it with animals, but not with humans.
You know, it's a thing. It's a thing in the Matrix that we were all quite disgusted of when we saw the robots doing that to us. It's not really a thing in society.
Yeah, but we do it to pigs, don't we? We use pigs' hearts for transplants.
Yeah, and even that was probably like morally, ethically controversial.
It's controversial, isn't it?
And we might clone at some point and then take organs from clones, and that might be a little bit more accessible than directly.
Yeah.
I was talking with Chris about this yesterday, and I was thinking we're not even accepting it at the moment morally. If someone walks into the hospital and says, I'm ready to commit suicide, I'm ready to take my life, I don't want to live anymore, and I'll donate all of my organs that are inside my body. I mean, we at this moment as a society, we're not ready to accept such a thing.
I'm totally ready for that. As long as you can prove that the person isn't temporarily, isn't like for some like on drugs and not able to make a conscious decision. If there's a proper process in place, why not?
That's a problem with suicide in general, though, is that like how long would you have to prove that you were unrecoverable from that frame of mind?
There's ways of doing it, right?
But obviously there is a big difference between a healthcare system that's chopping people up like a car body shop for parts. And in that case where someone's like, look, I jump off that bridge and become mush, or you make the most of my organs while they're useful to someone. Yeah. That's a trolley problem for someone. Do you let my organs go to waste? Yeah. And I understand why healthcare systems have a problem with that. Like, because it's very tough. People fear a system that has the power for euthanasia, especially when healthcare is run, if not at a profit, then on a budget. Yeah. Right, like, and then we spend so much money on the last couple of years of life, and so when we start making utilitarian decisions of, well, okay, maybe it's not directly that person's organs, but we spend $500,000 and 4 surgeons and 10 doctors spent 6 months looking after that old person. How many lives could you save if they were working on younger people? How many person years could you save? And so we're rightfully very scared of introducing utilitarian measures into healthcare systems for that reason.
Yeah, but then maybe this is a bit of a tangent, about like the sanctity of life, that people don't want to die, they're not ready to let go, and but maybe that does kind of make sense to some extent, at the risk of sounding like a utilitarian. But that kind of brings me on to one of the dilemmas that I've got here. It's a nice segue, and it seems straightforward to me, but maybe it's not. So it's do you think that assisting the suicide of someone who wants to die and has requested help is morally equivalent to allowing them to die by withholding medical assistance, assuming that the level of suffering turns out to be identical in both cases?
In both cases, they've asked for it as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, as we discussed on the death episode, I've noticed that the national healthcare system in the UK, at least, has found this loophole where if the family are super consenting and it's very clear they're not the type to sue, you can just keep upping someone's morphine until they're probably going to go slightly premature.
Which probably wouldn't happen in like the United States, for example, because of the risk of them just wanting to sue to get loads of money, for example.
Yeah, and still it happens in the USA, and it's a secret, of course, that doctors cannot talk about much in the USA. I think this is not even a moral dilemma anymore. I think most good doctors know that it is, they do it, especially at old age and lots of suffering.
There's literally an acronym for don't limit the amount of morphine.
If you're a trusted physician and you know the person you're dealing with and you know that this is the right, the only, for them, the right way to go. And I think as well, in this case, it's someone's own choice. I believe in the sanctity of your own body. I believe you can put inside of your own body what you want to put inside of your own body, and you can end your life when you want to end your life. And I think that should happen in the most humane way possible, which is with the help of your physician that can hopefully treat you, and only if really the suffering is too much, be it physically or mentally.
God damn, people in palliative care are heroes. Bo Burnham's mum, actually, I saw an interview and he talked about how people are like, oh, don't you get nervous? You're such a celebrity. He's like, I don't give a shit. My mum handles people that die. And I hear all the time us Lord soldiers who see their friend die in their arms. Not saying that's not sad, not saying that's not fucking tragic, but my mum watches 14 people die a day and comes home and cooks meal and has a smile on her face and doesn't tell us about it because she doesn't want to burden us with it. There is an industry of people who deal with that for us. We've outsourced it. And although it's tragic when you watch it as your loved one, there then has to be a service industry that deals with it as a process. That is
just out of curiosity, because obviously mad respect to everyone who's involved in that whole process, but how much of it do you think is like just getting used to the fact that you're dealing with that kind of gruesome
I can't imagine the strain
process? Because like, for example, people who become doctors in the beginning, then they might have they might faint at the sight of blood, but then they get over it and they keep doing operations and they get used to it, and eventually they're digging around in people's insides and it's no big deal to them.
So part of it you adjust, and as we've said in the death episode, like we shy away from death so much that we're ill prepared to face it, but part of it, I'm sure, that these people live functioning with PTSD.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I think there's only so much you can handle. And the way he described his mum, like it was like 3 weeks into the job and she started forgetting things. And she spoke to her boss and go,
The brain also blocks out other stuff by
memory
mistake.
is just one of the first things that goes in this job because we're blanking out so much. The brain can't cope, just starts. Apparently it's common to forget who the president is at the time. That's literally a recorded thing among nurses in those sorts of places.
Maybe you're right. I think maybe some people are just able to absorb these kinds of energies and turn them around or flow with that. I think it's a hard job. I think it's not at all like a surgeon that's become used to it, because a surgeon looks at it very technically, and these are people that dealing with people and real. Like I'm pretty sure that for every one of them, like there's probably ones that impact less, and then there's always comes another person along that they connect with, and their death will impact this caretaker a lot. But yeah, people working in healthcare. Have resilience, probably build up, and maybe able to turn the tragedy of life into a positive thing as well. I think that's what we talked about with the death episode as well. Death is not just tragedy; it's tragedy alone.
I think a lot of people in that line of work as well do get a lot of like appreciation from the patients. For example, my dad, he was super, he just had so much admiration and respect for all the people who were helping him along when he was, in palliative care.
They're literal angels. Like I say, they're superheroes. Yeah. Should I lighten the mood?
Yeah, let's.
Sure.
I have a moral dilemma for you. And this, again, hinges on the fact that so much of moral dilemmas, people feel a visceral, almost automatic physical repulsion for the bad option. And an anger that those people take the bad option. And based on those theories, there are people that studied like how universal certain moral taboos are and whether that tells us about the evolution. Now there's a big group of people that say our values are Judeo-Christian, right? Like, but obviously, you can also see how they predate that. Judeo-Christianity absorbed the religions of Zoroastrianism and paganism and all that. But it is interesting to me that across all cultures, there are certain things that are just universally taboo. And it's easy to phrase it as a moral dilemma, where again, people are like, but why? So we'll start on the shallow end of the swimming pool and we'll see how deep we're prepared to go. But I think YouTube is going to demonetize us, but that's fine. So a brother and a sister using contraception decide to have sex. Is that wrong?
Yeah, because but there's a good evolutionary reason.
Yeah, everyone says it is. They're like, that's disgusting. And almost all cultures have we say evolutionary, but like I say, logically, they're using contraception.
But there's still a risk. There is still a risk even using contraception, right? So you could still maybe object to it on the grounds of, what if,
super contraception.
Okay, yeah. Then you go, well,
he's castrated.
Does it really matter then? It's two people consenting. There's no possibility of a kid. There's no possibility of some harm coming through a birth defect.
And yet everyone goes, unless you're on Pornhub, where apparently it's the most popular category for some reason.
Right. Is it really that taboo?
I have a theory about that, by the way. If you just have like a semi-boring video of two reasonably attractive people fucking, they always throw the stepsister shit in there just for shock value, because what else are you going to do with your middling average
And then they saw
video?
it's trending, and then it's just become a snowball, right?
It's become a thing.
I don't know. I don't really see. Yeah, there's like a reaction, right? But then when you think about it, it's like, what possible reasons are there? Maybe it's like some public shame issue. Do you know what I mean? If people found out, I don't know.
Well, no, and that's it. Like a lot of things, you're going to end up then arresting that brother and sister, and they're going to serve time in prison, right? Like, is that better for society? Are we better as a society?
And are you going to reform that? Do you know what I mean? Are they going to become reformed? Can you reform? I don't know. What do you think, Moraine?
Well, anthropologically, there is a different reason than offspring why there's the incest taboo in cultures, and it is the one taboo that is shared amongst all cultures in the world. So this is why anthropologists have researched this, and theories of them have come actually more towards alliance theory, marriage alliance theory. That it is important for humans to create marriage alliances outside of their own group. And this is why in every culture it's frowned down upon to have this alliance between brothers and sisters, unless maybe you're in the royal house of the Egyptians. I think that's where one of the few times in history where that's happened.
It is quite common in royal families.
There's cross cousin,
and it's for precisely the reason anthropological people.
That's a whole different thing.
Are trying to avoid it. No, but it's kind of the same game though, right? Like if you have power and resources, you want to keep it within your genetic lineage, right?
Usually with cross-cousin marriages, it's within two families. So it's double marriage within a family, two families. So it's to have a family with two ties.
Yeah.
Even stronger allied with each other.
Yeah, like diluting the strong genes less. God's genes, but yes, it makes weird horse-looking children. You can see why people are against it, because it's sharing less, like spreading less of the resource into like intergenerational wealth hoarding, right? Really bad for all of us, and thankfully also bad for genetics.
Yeah, I think it just probably take a while for that taboo to like go away, and if it ever does, maybe it never will. Even if the whole human race was like sterilized or something, and the kids were all grown in labs, do you know what I mean? And also culture changed, like then maybe it wouldn't be an issue, you know what I mean? But that's probably a long way off, right?
I don't want to live in that.
Maybe the categorical imperative comes in here. It's just like a fancy way of saying, if you, it was Kant who came up with the theory, he said, if you take that action and you say like, what if everyone does it? It's like, do you want to live in that kind of world? Like, do you want to live in a world where everyone's committing incest? Well, that wouldn't really make much sense, would it? Right? Do you want to live in a world where everyone jumps in to try and save a drowning kid? Well, yeah, probably. Or a drowning person. Maybe you're drowning one day and you think, well, that would be good if someone saved me, you know, even if it was a risk to their own life. So I think that's quite a solid foundation.
I'd be interested to discuss any examples you have where our evolved instincts are counterproductive to the good of society, where you think we have a natural revulsion. And I think that there are possible examples where this moral instinct for revulsion hurts certain groups. So you can observe it, for example, in attitudes towards homosexuality, which I would say I am not conflating it with incest, but I'm saying people do. It falls in a similar category of people deciding that it is morally repugnant, reprehensible behavior. It's disgusting that those two people love each other and want to do that thing.
But not for the same reasons, right? When you analyze the reasons, people have the same visceral reaction.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not conflating them, but people do. That instinct misfires, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Quite often, these are bisexually repressed men, right?
Could well be, right?
Studies show, that the people most angry.
There's a little bit more behind it. There's a bit of self-hate involved and self-doubt.
Do you not think there's a difference though in that like homophobia is more learned than the taboo against incest? Like,
so I think there is a problem. I understand why.
Well, for sure, it's more learned.
Yeah. But
if you look at history, like, come on, the Greeks, it was not a problem.
Changes culturally, yeah.
And so I think it's the misfiring of that instinct. Once you start deciding what is morally acceptable and not, there's this part of it is this revulsion, right? That isn't logically made. The logical rationalization comes afterwards. You feel repulsed towards certain sexual acts. It's also anthropologically fascinating why we have sex in private. We eat in public and have sex in private, and other species do it the other way around, right?
Right. Yeah. And but in China they poop in public, or they poop communally, right? Open stalls. So that is different between cultures as well.
And dogs just stare at you when they're taking a poop. So,
But food is very special, right? Food, anthropologically, food, the people you share a meal with is what constitutes a household or community. So food is very specific social category, more so than where you sleep. It is usually food. What is the main signifier? The meal.
And there are variations, right? There's polyamorous relationships. Like, not sex isn't as much of a taboo for every
Sex
culture.
clubs. People fuck in public, You've got,
some people
I've been
do.
to one of those raves where people wear all these kinky stuff, and if you look into the side of the room, there's people sucking each other off, and
Yeah. But let's be real, like, part of the excitement is that it's taboo. Louis C.K. does a great bit about how the gays, of course it's great that they've got rights and their spaces, but I bet they lost a bit of the excitement, like, when it wasn't this shameful act, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. It's kind of true, like, if you like, it's the same when you go to a nudist beach, right? Like, it's really exciting when you're 14 to see boobies, but past that, it quickly goes from, oh, this will be titillating, to, oh, it's really weird, I just have to act normal. And once the taboo goes, it's not exciting at all. And I think it'd be the same.
That's not what the nude beach is for, really. It's not really for excitement. It's mostly just
right?
for people who want to feel like a little bit free without clothes and
not risk someone threatening punching them.
This is it's not the sex club of the beach.
Yeah, a bit relaxed. And if you're there getting excited, you're the weirdo. Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. So so once the taboo is gone, the excitement's gone. Okay.
Not a nudist, but still need to defend the nudists out there,
That's the shallow end of the pool.
What's in the deep end? I'm curious.
Let's go a bit deeper. So, a gentleman buys a chicken, and he takes it home, and he fucks the carcass, and he ejaculates inside it, and he puts it in the oven.
Should have given a trigger warning here, mate.
This whole episode's going a trigger warning.
We'll put a trigger warning in retrospectively, I think. So he cooks it, and then what?
Just a trigger warning. If you hear the sound of Chris speaking, and then he eats it. He just enjoys his solo meal for one. And you ask most people in most cultures that question, and they feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, which
really
which
find
part
that
of the
morally
story,
repugnant.
Which part? The eating it, or the jizzing in it, or the eating of the jizz, or the
all of the above. But let's dig into logically. Like,
well, it's just straight up. It's very easy morally. It's just there's no consent from the animal, so you shouldn't be eating it to begin with. Done.
Right.
Once it's a carcass, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Do what you want with it. But you shouldn't have killed the chicken to eat it or jizz in it or whatever.
But you do understand the majority of people are more offended by the the jizzing.
But it's because they've learned that that's not an issue. The mass
murder of animals.
Exactly, because we've kind of taken the agency away from animals and we don't see them as sentient beings. We see them as objects. And you can do what you want with an object. It doesn't matter, right? They've been objectified. That's basically what it comes down to. It's like if you do the same thing with a pillow, like some guy wants to jizz in a pillow and cook it and eat it, you'd be like, doesn't matter.
I mean, eating his own jizz is a bit, Ralph.
Well, but what's the issue with eating your own jizz? Like,
it's gay. No, literally, like I just realized this. I was like, I'm repulsed by someone eating their own jizz.
Why?
But I expect a woman I'm with to do it. Like,
have you never tasted?
I find it repulsive, the idea of a person eating their own jizz.
Have you never tasted your own brand, Chris?
But literally, all of my partners, I've expected it from them as default. So.
I'm surprised, Chris. I'm surprised. Yeah.
You've never tried your own. You've never accidentally like.
You've never tasted.
Merlin's a fan of his own brand.
You're not curious. You're not curious.
Oh, shut up. Of course I have.
Just a little taster.
There you go.
Yeah.
Am I going to get up and wash my hands now?
That's a bit far, but
ain't nobody got time for that.
Just take the cat approach.
Eating it in a meal is different, right? As a nice little gravy on. That's nasty, and then it becomes nasty, right? Don't compare your jizz with my food, yeah. But like Finn, you're saying that animals have been objectified. Yes, to a certain degree, and to another degree not, right? Because like, for example, the blender test, right? We put every object in the blender, but we will not shoot a video putting a chicken in the blender and turning the blender on.
No, but people pay for it on a daily basis.
Then it's animal cruelty, right? But no, the moment that we videotape it, it's animal cruelty. As long as we just don't videotape it.
Yeah, that's just classic cognitive dissonance. Do you know what I mean? People pay for it whenever they have eggs. They're paying for that to happen.
Is it legal to film a slaughterhouse and put a live stream on YouTube?
Illegal.
Generally, it's illegal, but there's a slaughterhouse recently where they put CCTV cameras and it just hasn't really done anything. There's still ridiculous amounts of animal abuse going on.
Yeah, in Holland, they have CCTV cameras, actually. One of them got closed because they sneaked in and they recorded private tape. Because when the person, like, they hardly ever look at the CCTV images. And
God, can you imagine having that as a job?
Probably a lot of the people that have to look at it accept most of the things that are going on anyway. And it's only really when it's out in the media and people are outraged at what they see, the little bit that they see, it's when a slaughterhouse gets closed. Even though like everyone already knew that was happening there all the time, and including the people that had to inspect there, right?
That blows my mind. Like, to show a video of what happens in the way that 7 or 6 billion people eat daily is illegal.
I don't think it's illegal to show the video.
What, you think I could put it up on YouTube, just showing a slaughterhouse's operations?
Yeah, you're not heard of Anonymous for the Voiceless? They're like a vegan activism group, and they show videos of slaughterhouse footage in public. And people go, oh, it's terrible. You can't do that. My kid's seen it.
Are they demonetized? Does the algorithm allow you to publish that on YouTube?
Demonetized isn't illegal, is it?
So it's possible, but hard to promote.
No, but even getting the image is illegal.
Oh, yeah. And the slaughterhouse can stop you. The slaughterhouse
they generally don't consent
to
trespassing and stuff. But people get it anyway. And once the footage is out, it's out. I mean, you can watch Dominion, Earthlings, Land of Hope and Glory as one filmed in the UK, usually undercover. But then the actual footage itself is not illegal.
Sure, but it is illegal to do yourself what they do in a slaughterhouse and film it. If you as a private citizen, like say you have a YouTube channel and you're fucking disturbed as fuck and you want to make videos slaughtering animals, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think it is illegal. It might be demonetized. It might be blocked from YouTube, but it's not illegal.
Be funny enough, yeah, if you had a license as a butcher, you'd probably get away with it, right?
I don't think you even need a license.
I presume there's some health and safety.
I don't think so.
Or is that only if you sell it?
If you sell it, I think
you could kill animals for entertainment, because that's basically what it is.
Yeah,
right?
hunting. That's hunting. Right?
Oh, and there are hunting channels.
Yeah, it's hunting channels. People shooting deer and stuff, whatever, ducks, wringing their necks. I've seen that on YouTube. But yeah, I guess we're getting a bit off topic. The point, I suppose it is on topic. It is on topic, right?
It's fascinating to me, as I say, that in that example, people are upset by the fact that a man comes, which, let's face it, happens on average, like often.
Statistical accuracy there.
Often, right?
Happens a lot.
Yeah. And not by the mass industrial meat industry.
Yeah. Have you got a deeper example than that of worse?
I was going to ask, like, I need no encouragement. Would you like to go deeper?
Yeah. Trigger warning.
Oh, man. Like, if you're still around, then I guess your mouse is broken at this point.
Your computer's stuck.
Yeah, just remove the battery from your laptop if you're currently struggling. So Louis C.K. beautifully says, again, if we weren't so punitive of pedophiles, less children would die. Like it's a case in fact that being a pedophile has such a harsh punishment.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that it's a wrong punishment.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's a brutal fact of life that, simply put, the best thing to do if you've fucked a child in an act of passion, violence, whatever, is to kill the child and try and hide the body. Because there's no way of being like, sorry. Like, I'm really sorry, guys. Like, whew, I don't want to kill the kid. If we can all just promise just not to mention this to the feds, I'll never bother your child again.
So you're saying that makes it okay?
That's where he's trying to get.
Oh yeah, that's definitely what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, but in the argument, right?
Definitely in this conversation of moral dilemmas.
What's the dilemma? What's the dilemma here?
Don't fuck kids? The dilemma is, like, let's make it simpler. And there are countries that have a better understanding of this nuance. If someone has sexual desires for young pornography, it would probably be best if they came forwards and said, hi there, like, I'm really sorry, but I have these desires and I understand they're not healthy.
Right, and treat them medically. Yeah.
Are there any treatments? However, do you think that's how they'd get treated by the system? Or do you think they'd get put on a list and told who they could live next to and where they could live and on a fucking watch list or chemically castrated or and is that the best solution, that we have a bunch of people just hiding their...
I don't think chemical castration's gonna fix it, is it?
It's the most common solution in many countries at the moment.
Chemical? Well, what, their dick falls off?
Yeah.
But they can still
not literal, but they reduce testosterone and sexual desire through
I see.
a bunch of medicine.
Well, I mean, look, do you have control over it? It's fundamentally
in the best case, by the way, in many countries, and I'm not talking third world countries, so I'm talking many states in Europe and America, if you came forward to authorities and announced that you had such desires, they would treat you horrifically. Yeah. Probably arrest you.
They can't arrest you for not doing anything, though. But they can put you on lists and that stuff.
They can arrest you for having something in your search history.
Well, then, yeah, that would be the crime. But assuming you haven't done anything.
But again, like, isn't it the healthier thing? I'm not justifying it. But if you have those desires, isn't it healthier to wank about it at home in private than...
Talk with a psychologist, yeah?
Yeah, there was a good example of that, which was these Japanese sex dolls. There's a factory that makes sex dolls, right? And then there was a controversy because it was in a documentary I watched that they made models of kids, right? Dolls, kids, sex dolls. And people were like, God, that's outrageous. How can you do that? But then the people were like, well, it's better, isn't it? Wouldn't you rather people who have these desires and tendencies do it at home with a sex doll that's kind of realistic rather than going out and messing with the kids?
That comes a little close, right? I think you would rather have...
It's a gray area for sure.
You would rather have a psychologist trying to treat them.
Yeah.
and rehabilitate to society.
Exactly.
And in that way, like I'm a believer in a Norway model rather than the USA model. You know, the USA is very strong repression, very hefty punishments. And in Norway, it's all about rehabilitation, right? Even if you're a mass murderer, but we're still gonna try to get you back to society somehow.
Yeah. But can the person control their desires? I'm not convinced they can. I think they have those desires. It's a question of can they control their actions? And I think probably the majority of people who are pedophiles are not pederasts. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they act on it.
I believe you can control desires, though. Like this.
Yeah, of course we can.
Let me be controversial here. Like, I think I don't know this. Like, I'm no expert at all, and I'm very comfortable saying that. But is this not more of a sexual fetish?
To some extent, yeah.
Like so when you describe controlled desires, like, so let's say for some reason that like, the incest example, or you know, if we decide it's super disgusting to use uncooked meat in your sexual fantasies, whatever we make illegal for whatever reason, like, yeah, does it not come down to fetish control rather than like a health care problem?
But that is part healthcare problem.
If people can't control it, it's a healthcare issue.
Because societies decide that their fetish is so... But again, like, at what point do you step in?
There are some fetishes that we allow as a society, and there's some fetishes that indeed we don't allow as a society, right?
Because right now we've decided that Googling images of the thing, right? Like a doll that isn't... all dolls are manufactured new. So they don't have an age, right? Like, and okay, like, I understand the severe problem with the curation of child pornography.
Right, it's because it implies some exploitation and abuse, right?
But if it's a cartoon, right, of child pornography, who has suffered as a result of that?
Yeah.
Same with the sex doll thing. Like, at what point does the government step in and tell someone their fetish needs a healthcare solution? It's a psychological...
In the UK, they stepped in and told people that even, what was it, like anal sex and rimming, that is already like in the sexual forbidden
Perversion.
Parts. Yeah.
Oh, a bit of analingus, yeah.
Well, why?
Is that off the table? Is
like,
it?
I don't agree with libertarians on most things, but I think here it's like, why is the government even involved in that? It's completely two consenting adults. It's fine. Just why are they even involved? Do you know what I mean?
If there's no harm, yeah.
Well, okay, let's get into it. Like this podcast, which will probably have to be edited down hard. Two consenting adults, the definition of what was an adult consenting in homosexuality used to differ for heterosexuals.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Remember those times? Oh, look, it was a big campaign that the gays had to fight and still haven't won in many countries. The age of consent is different for heterosexual and homosexual
like
sex.
16 versus 18, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of mad. Just make everything 16, no?
Yeah, I think 16.
Just say you're an adult at this age and then apply that.
I think 16 is fair. The French think differently about it.
It's tough, right? Like for a 40-year-old with a 16-year-old. I think some countries get it right that below 18 there should be a certain age gap.
It was like more than 5 years.
It gets hard to police.
Yeah, I guess. But
it's a moral dilemma.
Yeah, I mean, you think if a 40-year-old with a 16-year-old is a problem, but that's also cultural, right? Because there's many traditional cultures where 16 is fine. You're a woman. You're not a child anymore. You know, there's an age where you become from a child, you become into an adult, and then it's more about power. Who's the powerful person in the tribe who can get the young girl? And it's still about that, right?
Greece and Romans. It was how you trained a young boy, right? Like. Your mentor.
But there's something to be said as well for giving even children 16 to 18 a bit of protection. Yeah.
Some protections. Yeah, and I think we've rightfully extended childhood. I don't want a 16-year-old working in a dangerous job. I don't want them working in the military on the front lines in a war.
But they can do that in the UK, for example, can't they? You can join the army at 16, but you can't vote.
Yeah, I think at 16 you can do most jobs, yeah.
So I'm just saying, just make it consistent. Make it 17. Put it in the middle with the driving license.
Yeah, driver's license 18. Yeah.
Happy medium. 17. Done. It's not 16. It's not 18. Everyone's an adult. 17. Done.
You can fuck a 50-year-old man.
As long as you know what you're getting yourself into. There's no other coercion or whatever.
As we all did when we were 17, wise in the ways of the world.
Yeah, right. Maybe
Really?
not. But...
So if I have a child and I give my 12-year-old son or daughter ayahuasca, DMT, or 14-year-old, this is morally wrong.
Because they can't consent. They probably don't know what they're getting themselves in for, do they?
Like this is the age of drugs, right? Yeah. At what age can you consent to taking drugs?
Just make it 17.
That's where I think the government's not bad, actually. I think, like 17's not bad.
People are going to do it younger anyway, though, aren't they? That's the problem. It's like you can say whatever. You can go, great, we've got a really consistent legal system, but if people are doing it anyway, and you can reduce the harm by lowering the age.
I wish the law said, you shouldn't drink 2 bottles of vodka and drive. And if someone breaks that law, that's not the fault of the law, right?
No, exactly.
So you just have to set like a barely tolerable guideline and hope for the best. Do you think the disgust of society is useful, or as I said in the gay example, like negative? Like,
look at Black Mirror, right?
Should it be decided rationally?
It should.
Maybe it should, but it never will be.
Like if a bunch of philosophers can rationalize out, sorry you're disgusted, but the law has to be this way, even though the majority of people in democracy are disgusted.
But the law isn't
idea.
to decide what's disgusting and what isn't. There's loads of legal stuff you can do that's disgusting, right? It's legal to eat your own shit, but you're not going to do it.
So we should change the law and make it legal for incest to happen as long as strong contraception is involved. Is that your argument?
I think if I can't see a victim and they're consenting adults and you can rule out a possibility of some potential harm, I can't see the problem legally.
Yeah, legally I'd be okay.
And I don't think anyone's going to start doing it. It wasn't before.
No. And do you think there should be a team of expert philosophers who go push against the democratic will of the majority of people and say, sorry, guys, you're wrong. Like, we have to let these guys
fuck. Sometimes that is what judges...
Kind of what judges do, isn't it? Yeah.
Do, though. They
the legal system in the UK is common law, so it's ruled by precedent. So when a judge decides makes a ruling on one case, that becomes the new precedent. It's not like in Europe, where it tends to be more like civil law, which is decided by, the political process, usually in conjunction with this legislature. Yeah, I'm not really against that. Try and get a bunch of philosophers to agree, though. That's going to be the difficult thing.
Yeah, I'm not for it, but I'm not against
the point is, like, why is it illegal? There was a good reason why it was illegal in the past. Maybe that reason doesn't apply anymore. Or maybe we can make an exception and say, well...
Contraception changes a lot of things.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It totally does. Yeah.
It's changed the whole of society. It's changed women's role in society. It's changed a lot of the rationalizations for not letting women do things have become redundant because, but they'll get pregnant and have babies.
Exactly.
They don't have to. That's not necessarily the case.
So we've got to kind of reassess the legal system as technology evolves, basically.
So this is my fear that in 20 years' time, like my kids will live in an age where they say, if we adjust for this, if we adjust for that, what's wrong with a pedophile having sex with a 14-year-old looking sex bot if he's not hurting anyone? What's wrong with a brother and sister marrying?
But there's stuff now. It's the same thing as now, isn't it?
Promising not to have kids, and me reacting to that and being like, but
there's stuff that happens now that makes you nauseous.
And then being like, you're an out of touch old person.
Chris, let's think of examples of stuff that now makes you nauseous. There's completely legal. There's loads of examples. I'm not going to go into it, but there's loads of examples where you go, oh God, that's horrible.
War, slave labor, the prostitution,
the arms industry, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of stuff that's fucking disgusting.
I mean, on the flip side, your children will have the same, right? Like, for example, maybe how could you have eaten meat and they'll be puking at the thought of us eating animal carcasses,
Mm-hmm.
So it goes both ways.
It does. I think it's just the ever-changing nature of law, isn't it? It has to kind of evolve and update. Well, maybe it doesn't evolve necessarily, but that's the idea, I guess.
Speaking of evolution, do you believe that there's some like universal morality? Do you think it's cultural, or is it beyond binary and a bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Kant's basically spot on with his categorical imperative. I do think it's sort of pseudo universalizable, but I don't think that. There's obviously somewhat cultural and relative, but I don't think you can just give in to cultural relativism and just say, well, anyone could just do what they want. There's like consent seems to be a pretty fundamental universal idea, right? That like you shouldn't fuck with people unless they want you to, or there's some agreement, right? That's reciprocity. That's fundamental. So I think there is universal ideas, and probably a system like, if everyone did it, what would happen is a good way to decide on whether it's a good idea or not. But obviously there's some relativism there. I don't know.
I mean, it's something we've alluded to earlier. You said shouldn't fuck with people unless you want, and this is something I've been coming up with the arguments of anarchists, right? Like, and the idea of having communes, and what if some weird cult
and all of that,
weird by our definition, wants to raise its kids a certain way and tell them that God is a certain way and the president is the devil. And
already
Jews
happens,
are evil.
Yes,
yes.
for sure.
You don't need to think of some hypothetical world, like that's happening now.
Yeah. And at what point is it none of my business? And at what point do we want a government to have to work out what's right and what's wrong?
It's like that Australian guy, isn't it? What's his name? Anyway, he basically said like, speeding in Australia, someone sped and they crashed and they killed loads of people. And it's like, and he was drunk driving. And it's like, you fucking asshole. Now you've ruined it for everyone. So now we have to have government come in and say, you can't go above this speed limit and you can't drink. You can only have one beer. Otherwise, we're going to have dickheads like this who ruin it for everyone. And basically, that was the idea. It was like, well, we need to stop people ruining it for everyone, basically. And if people can do stuff and it doesn't affect anyone else, crack on. You know what I mean?
So you're talking about Jim Jeffries.
That's the guy.
Where we can only move as fast as the slowest person in the group.
I kind of agree with him on that, What about you guys?
So it's the same with cults. We should have freedom and let people argue as much as they want until someone's weird cult fucks things up, and then we have to shift the goalposts.
Cults are a tricky one. Yeah. Sort of psychological manipulation. It's not clear cut, is it?
Who was Marilyn Manson's girlfriend from the Charmed series? She was in a cult and she escaped, like a lot of people in Hollywood. And her summary of Hollywood was worse than a cult.
Jeez.
She said that, and she's not positive about cults. She escaped a cult. That's her story. And then she went for a job as an attractive person, as an actress. She said it was remarkably similar.
I mean, half Hollywood is still a cult, though.
Yeah, all the casting couch. She said half of the things were the same. The things she saw in the cult, the way they'd recruit young, attractive people who were on the edge of society, struggling financially. She said, like, is it different? She said it was worse. She said she was sexually harassed more.
Crikey.
On the casting couch of LA than in her cult. And she was sexually harassed in her cult.
Yeah. What about you guys? What do you think? What's your opinion on that? Is there some universalism to morality?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've discussed, like, we are a group species, and so we inherently understand the value of altruism and how negative is when people think of themselves and think of family first. Like, we would understand if someone runs into a burning building of an orphanage and only saves the person they're most related to, logically, but they wouldn't be a hero on the front page of a newspaper. And that's the same for every single culture across the world. Like, there are certain cultural values which are universal. I find it interesting when there's differences. And there's not many, but for some reason, if you're a pedophile Hollywood director,
and get applauded,
you can escape to France and kind of get away with it. I think Kevin Spacey's there. Who's the movie director who famously won an Oscar, but Polanski couldn't fly to America because he would have been arrested. Notwithstanding the members of the British royal family who have yet to receive prosecution.
I don't think they can escape to France, though, can they?
No, they've escaped just in British high society. No.
It's a question of power and money, isn't it? Fundamentally,
privilege. Yeah. But yes, and that is universal. God, like, of all these rules we've said, you can be Egyptian and get away with fucking your sister if you're the pharaoh.
As long as you're Cleopatra's second cousin or some shit.
Yeah, it's frowned upon for the rest of us.
Yeah, but except for that one instance, was still pretty universal rule. I mean, I think, there probably are. I think also it's much easier for us to comprehend and talk about. So there is an instinctive part indeed. behind this, right? Like we cannot even talk about how our world works in certain other ways. Most people won't understand, right? If we look at physics and mathematics, and most people won't be able to talk about that. But morality is like something everyone can talk about. So yeah, it's something as a species
has an opinion on.
We can get our
all
hands
have an opinion
around this pretty easily, right? And so at least in that sense, that is universal, right? Like every culture will have morality rules. There will be difference, but every culture will have rules about what is right and what is wrong.
I mean, a big one in monogamous cultures is that so gossip has a place to play. And I think you can study a lot about what a culture values and how people of power are sort of critiqued and reviewed based on the gossip. And so we all have these salacious stories of Egyptian pharaohs sleeping with their cousin. Like, I think because it's on the record that happened, and someone wrote it down because it is noteworthy, right? Like, I think one of the most interesting things is how common gossip is about infidelity, and this harks back to my theory that a lot of morality, a lot of our feelings about what's right and wrong is evolutionary. A lot of people who are against gossip as a practice and a habit would very comfortably tell everyone they knew, with the precursor, don't tell anyone but. Like, so-and-so's fucking so-and-so, right? Like,
okay, so yeah, I have a good dilemma for this, right? Okay, so day of the wedding.
that moment when they go, he who has anything to say why this union
your best friend, and you catch his wife to be with someone else that night before the wedding. You know she cheated on him. You also know that it's not an open marriage, not an okay thing in the relationship.
They're not polyamorous.
Will you tell your best friend that she cheated on him?
Of course,
and ruin the wedding.
I don't see how that's a dilemma.
Yeah.
What's the dilemma?
The concern of the cost of a wedding? Like
right. Of course you do what you made.
The sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Wow. They've already booked this. 24 hours. When's not going to get a refund on this? Losing a bit of money. Or I mean,
so
there is maybe.
You think everyone will always tell?
Well, I would demand her to tell to save me the awkwardness.
What if she doesn't? What if she just tells you straight up, I'm not?
Then I go and do it. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I think there are some counter arguments though, right?
Let's make it more of a dilemma. Like,
but Finn, you were like, this is not my business, right?
No. I would definitely tell.
It's like, I'm a best friend.
Yeah, Finn's not touching the handle. You know that.
I would tell him because I think it's better to be honest. If I were in that situation again, I would want to know. I wouldn't want to be promising fidelity to someone. Right. I mean, I'm not going to get married, but I wouldn't want to be promising fidelity to someone who. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know that they just cheated on me. That's insane. Like,
moral dilemma. She says. But look, this was a one-off. It will never happen again. There's as long as no one finds out, there are no victims in this crime.
I would just at least put it off for a good few years to see if that's going to be true or not. Absolutely.
So you wouldn't touch the trolley. Once again, coward.
No, but I think everyone makes mistakes, though. Do you know what I mean? Everyone makes mistakes. If it's a repeated pattern, it's behavior. It's a pattern. It's like, well, then
once
you know
again,
what you're in for.
You failed to pull the lever, Finn.
Jesus, Finn.
I'm not inviting you to my wedding. Jesus. Oh, you didn't come to my wedding just as well.
I had your back, Chris. I had your back.
Thanks, bro.
I would have told you, though,
didn't
Chris.
See any of that
shenanigans. No, nothing suspicious.
Oh, that's a relief. Okay. Good.
No, I definitely would say. I definitely would say, for sure.
Well, to your best mate, because your loyalty's with him, right?
Yeah, but also, like, just better to say the truth, isn't it?
Well, okay. So
maybe not always, but
when you've said that, then let's flip it. So it's your best mate. You barely know his wife. The stag do, he goes home with someone. Are you saying you would tell his wife that had happened?
Interesting one.
Because you've just said your justification was better to tell the truth.
Yeah, I think I would.
Oh,
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Don't invite Finn
case.
on your stag do, gentlemen.
Yeah,
definitely not.
So in this case, I wouldn't, because she's not my mate, right? Like, I was even thinking in the previous example, how good of a mate is this? If it's your best mate, yeah, I tell them. If it's not that great of a mate, I'm sorry.
It gets awkward,
I know, like, I'm a little bit on the outside of your life. Like, well, why would I tell you?
Yeah, I know. It does seem to make a difference, doesn't it? How well you know the person, which is kind of annoying, because I want to just be like, you always tell the truth and that's it.
But loyalty and friendship is a moral value. Like if you went through life treating everyone equally and giving no credence to the people you had history or loyalty with, I'm not sure that's any way to live. Right?
It's not really a big deal. It's not like a big effort for you to be like, he's just cheated on you. Do you know what I mean? Even if you didn't know the people at the wedding, you should probably still say it, no?
What? Because it's not effort. Like, dude, the lever on the trolley problem isn't effort.
Send an anonymous email. You can do it anonymously. It takes 5 seconds.
So just to recap, Finn, you wouldn't touch a lever to save 4 lives.
I wouldn't murder. Let's get this straight.
But even if he was working at the wedding, he would have come in and be like,
if I knew for
touch
sure.
all the levers.
I just saw this. Good luck with your wedding.
But it's fundamentally very different from the trolley problem. It's fundamentally very different because they're making a commitment because of this idea of a marriage that it's like they're going to promise each other to each other and no infidelity and all that, and it's a close relationship.
The marriage defender.
No, but like that's what they're signing up for. If fundamentally they've been tricked at the last minute by the other person, that's a shitty situation.
If you were at a meeting between 2 businesses and they were signing a contract, and you kind of knew that one of the businesses was planning on reneging on the contract,
but you can't know that for sure. You can know the fact that someone's cheating.
No, you knew.
How can you know that? It's future.
Same with the cheating thing. Maybe it was a one-off. Maybe it was a mistake, and the person.
But that's their decision to make.
Mistake.
But don't get married tomorrow. That's what I'm saying. So as a business, I'd say, watch out. You know what I mean?
You would. In both cases, you would be like, "Sorry to interrupt my friend's business negotiation, but I have reason to believe that he's not going to turn it with honest intentions."
Burst into the room.
Well,
and be
it
like,
sounds like it, because you'd fuck up a wedding.
No, I'm going to let them know anonymously.
Oh my God.
By email.
How are you?
By email.
The prosecution rests. The gentleman is not honourable. He would let 4 people die due to his cowardice and then start sending a bunch of anonymous emails to cause some drama, helping no one other than his own ego and own sense
I'm helping
of
the people who are getting married because I think they have a duty. They would want to know, right? They would want to know. If you were getting married...
Apparently not, because he's cheated and told you don't tell anyone. So he doesn't want everyone to know, clearly.
He didn't know. That's an addition. You've just added that in. That wasn't there before. He didn't say, or she didn't say that they don't want you to tell.
So someone would have to communicate that they'd prefer you not to tell their wife that they cheated on the stag. That was unclear until that moment.
I still would do it. I would still do it. I would still do it.
With your anonymous email.
Yeah.
Cowardice. The prosecution rests.
No, just because I think
never get invited for stag do ever in his life.
Yeah, hopefully.
If you ever get an anonymous email ever, it's probably Finn.
Anonymous wedding emails.
Yeah, ruining your marriage.
No, but it's because I think if 2 people do decide to get married, they would want to know. If I did want to get married for some reason, I would want to know.
But dude, I mean, yes, if it's your best friend, but if it's strangers, like this is not your situation.
It's the categorical imperative again. It's like I think it would be a better world if people were more aware of what happened rather than lying to each other and then getting into some ridiculous legal arrangement without this knowledge of who that person is.
Are you against
it's
marriage?
A better world to
are you against marriage as an institution? I'm not up for it. I don't agree with it. But I think if people want to do that, crack on, but do it fair, do it honestly. Don't fuck around cheating the night before and not telling your partner. If they decide to not do it honestly, you're going to do it for them.
I'll honestly email them.
You will push the lever In that case, you would push the lever.
Because it's
even
not
though,
like no,
even though it's none of your
different.
business and it's not your
It's completely
train,
different.
Not just
not
pushing
your rail.
the lever. I mean,
The trolley problem
the whole email
kills the
pressing
people,
send.
and that's it, right? Here, I'm telling them
killing
the truth.
a wedding is fine.
And no, because they get to decide. They could just postpone the wedding. They get to decide if they want to marry that person, if they want to leave it, if they want to split up. That's up to them. I'm not killing anything. I'm just telling them this is what happened. That's the truth. You do that what you want. But I would want to know.
There's the
I'd always want to
expression,
know.
if something can be destroyed by the truth, then it ought to be.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. People should be fully consenting. I mean, look, they even stopped the bloody wedding and go, if anyone here knows of a reason,
It's
like you said at the
ceremony
beginning,
for a
Chris,
reason. yeah.
March into the
Say it.
church. Ta-da!
I have an anonymous email.
I've received an anonymous email from someone.
Wow.
I've sent an anonymous email to Finn. It's you again.
Well, like I say, like anyone that listens to podcasts that gets an email that wrecks their relationship in the next 4 years,
You
we'll
can be
blame
pretty
you.
sure you know who
We'll
it's
blame
gonna be.
Finn, even if it's not.
I've just set myself up as a target. Then maybe that's my alibi. I can get out of it. Nah, it's that episode. Everyone just emails now and says it's me. But it wasn't really. Nah, but you see my point, right? Like,
No, ignorance is bliss for some people. Let them live their
for
illusion.
some people, nah. But the person who's not there's one person there who's not consenting to that illusion, who I think
But
deserves
it's
to
not
know
your
the truth.
responsibility to tell that. It's
Finn,
their partner's responsibility.
I'll call
to
you
tell
up on that. I bet all the time you meet people in relationships where you know they're a shitty couple, you know that he's done something wrong that she doesn't know about. Forget even relationships, business partnerships where you know he's a liar and a boaster or an exagerator. You don't go around sending anonymous emails tipping people
No, because I
off
don't think it matters. whether
because you
people
think the
boast.
truth matters.
No, this is it. This is a different case. If someone's just
you think it's
boasting
a
a little bit,
consenting contract?
it's illegal. It's a big deal. No, getting married. Fundamentally changes your rights.
So is a business partnership.
Yeah, if it's a business partnership, I might consider that because that's pretty fundamental.
So if you knew me and Meringue were planning on going to business and you knew I had a history of betraying people, you'd feel morally obligated to gossip.
If you were about to sign a deal tomorrow that would fundamentally change both your lives, and it was a big deal for Meringue that you had done some shady business deal with a weapons company, for example, I would tell Meringue for sure. Mate, you want to think about this again. I'm not telling you what to do, but he did this, and then you decide whether you want to go.
So at this
in on the
point,
deal
for those enjoying the podcast, I'd like to make it clear that Finn, while claiming the moral high ground, has done business with weapons companies. He's done several voiceovers.
It's not a weapons company.
It's pretty adjacent, bro. They're talking about missiles. Yeah, Space Force. Like,
yeah, it's not.
I just think you should all know, like all of Finn's students who are taking moral guidance from Finn, that he's taking money.
Moral guidance. I'd recommend that no one takes moral guidance from me. Moral guidance. Bloody hell. I should hope not. They should think for themselves. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a moral guide. Bloody hell. I don't want that kind of responsibility. Do you know what I mean?
You're just too busy crashing and wrecking weddings.
Too busy sending anonymous emails.
Gentlemen, thank you for pulling us out of a dark, dark place.
So can I ask, like, to go away from like this very to the abstract binary proposition of the trolley problem. Let's look at the corona problem. Right now, like the original goalposts a year ago was that we did not want to be our hospital care, our healthcare system to be overrun by COVID. At least in the Netherlands, that was the main reason why we shut down everything, went into lockdown. It was because our healthcare systems were not capable of handling the patients and lung machines and everything.
And people would die of like all other normal stuff, right?
Right. But now it seems that at least in some countries, they are moving the goalposts away from healthcare overburdening to either zero COVID, or here in Holland recently, the discussion on long COVID has started.
Long COVID, right? Where you get the disease and it lasts for a long time.
Well, any infectious disease will have a certain percentage of people that will have an after effect.
And you can see Meringue's hair has never recovered from him getting COVID. He looks like my grandma. I don't know what's going on.
No, don't make me feel bad about my gray hair. I already feel bad enough.
Great, man.
But this happened earlier. This happened when my grandma died, actually. One night, overnight, it turned half gray.
You flipped it well. I feel shitty now.
But no, like, so with long COVID, the arguments here are now like, what percentage of people do you tolerate having long COVID, and what kind of measures will you put into place permanently to avoid people from either dying or having long COVID? Because you're never going to stop that with vaccination.
Let's have the discussion, and the discussion becomes utilitarian. If you reduce the speed limit from 70 to 60, do you know you'd save quite a few lives? Like, we don't as a civilization. And the big thing, I think, is we're at a point now where lockdowns don't work. Like, people are ignoring them.
Yeah.
So in order to enforce them, you end up having like
in the UK. No, but look at Australia.
They're like, let's have a lockdown in 3 weeks' time. Let's end lockdown in next week, right? It's like, look at the spike. People are already ignoring it, obviously, clearly, like demonstrably.
This is very much UK, because some other countries, New Zealand, Australia, are definitely going full lockdown again.
Yeah,
it needs to be.
They'll do it for years.
Australia got hardly
and
any,
they'll do it for years. Yeah, New Zealand said, We'll ban every foreigner for entering or quarantine them for years if it needs to be. And here in Holland, we said we'll open up, and then less than a week later, they said, no, sorry, we're closing down the clubs and the festivals again.
Can I suggest a third way? Like, imagine just announcing, like, worldwide 20% extra tax. We're going to open up 20% extra tax. And that's going to go towards vaccinating the world, because it doesn't matter if New Zealand locks down or England locks down. As long as the world isn't vaccinated, this will keep being a problem. Variants will keep coming up.
But it will keep being a problem, because the fact was we couldn't produce enough vaccines, even with more money. We couldn't produce and distribute enough vaccines to the entire world. So what happened is the rich countries got it, the poor countries did not. There's large, like, it sucks, but it is how the world works. You know, the current system, the hegemony of the current system. And we'll keep getting variants. It will keep sweeping. Delta variant will infect even people that are double vaccinated with Pfizer. We can't stop it. And yet some countries still think that we can.
Let's get into moral dilemmas. Like, and this hinges on the thing. Is the world, like, underpopulated? Is it a massive tragedy that there's about to be slightly less people in the world?
It's not overpopulated, is it? I've got quite strong views on that.
You should not ask me this opinion, because a year ago I would have said call 25% of the population, even if it's me.
Nah, there's no overpopulation. The problem is wealth distribution. Come on, where's Toby when you need him? 10% of the people are fucking up for everyone else. That's clear. It's so clear. We're eating too many animals. We just got to stop manufacturing, like, breeding animals, redistribute a bit of wealth, and it'll be fine. There's room for like 10 billion people easily on Earth with our food production and wealth. There's easily enough. There's not too many people.
You can't have everyone driving cars, though, right?
Yeah,
not everyone needs to drive a car.
Not even electric cars, because electric cars cost also.
So
bicycles, mate.
Gentlemen,
bicycles.
I'll take it home.
Done.
You end up with more trains, and thus you end up with more trolley problems.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll be able to put this conversation to use.
Did I take it home or did I take it home?
You took it home.
I love you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. It was good to have an old school classic episode of the original three.
Yeah, that's it.
It's been too long. It's been too long.
For sure. Should we say where we're from or not? I guess people know by now, don't they?
I'm not going to say where I'm from.
Doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, no.
Shotgun not editing this podcast.
I don't think it needs much editing.
Shotgun second.
I'll do it. I don't think we need much editing. I'll just cut it out. I'll just cut out all the bits where you're making
criticizing Finn.
I'm just going to record my voice going, good point yet again, Finn, and just paste it over every time you criticize me for not pulling the lever.
Every time me and Meringue say, agree.
Finn, you're correct. Pulling the lever is murder.
Well, then it's my moral duty to tell everyone that you are a liar.
I think we didn't get into the negatives of utilitarianism and the dangers of it.
I think it's
very much.
Really. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure. But I'm more of a deontologist. Do you know what I mean? Like, I genuinely...
What does that mean?
It means you should just not do the action because it's morally wrong, rather than you should do it based on the consequences of the action. So a utilitarian goes, well, 5 versus 1, doesn't really matter that you're pulling the lever or you're shooting someone or you're taking their organs.
What, you think you should have rationalized your moral cowardice more? Like, no. No.
Nice.
Can we cut out the bit where I insult Tia?
Nah, leave that in.
It's your choice. It's fine. Everyone stop recording.
Oh, yeah.